where dreams collide. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs, hearts ablaze through the cheers and cloudy days. From the lane to glory's flight. Spotlight on Spurs, shine so bright. Echoes rise when we take the field. This is passion, nothing concealed. Through the tackles, joy ignites. Spotlight on Spurs, burning lights. Feel the tempo, sweet and wild. London's warriors never mild. Every challenge we endure. Spotlight on Spurs, loud and pure.
Evening, everyone. Hopefully it's a welcome back for most of you. A few days since we was live. Obviously we was live on Monday, back to the regular Thursday edition, and we have some brilliant guests lined up today. So we've got two guests that will be returning to the show. As always, welcome in, Chris. How are we doing, my friend? How's things?
Oh, not bad, mate. Busy, but we're getting there slowly and surely.
Busy in personal life or Tottenham life?
Personal life, Tottenham life, I'm just waiting for something. There seems to be a load of ifs, buts, and maybes, but no actual stuff apart from tell.
There definitely is, mate. There definitely is. Thank you for coming on. Another returning guest who's here today is Mr. Danalist. How are we doing, my friend?
How you doing, guys? How are you? You right, Luke?
Not too bad. Thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for coming on. How's all things with you?
Oh, I'm all right, mate. Very hot today, eh? Baking.
Just a little bit on the warm side. Just a little bit on the warm side, mate. I've got the cold water here ready to go for what should be a brilliant show. Welcoming in two people making their debut. First up, Connor from Levy and Vinai. How are we doing, mate? How are we doing? Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Very well. Nice to see you, chaps. Looking forward to jumping in.
Cheers, as I said. Thank you very much for coming on. And then last but not least, no introduction needed. You all know him. If you're here, you know him. Mr. Sean from Spurs Talk Show. How are we doing? And thank you very much for coming on.
I'm good, mate. Two things before we get going. One, what did you call Connor? How did you introduce his name? Was it Mr. Levy Economics?
Levy not comics.
Leaving the comics.
Is that all right?
Levynomics.
Levynomics, there we go. I did actually say economics the last time. I did actually say that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to correct you, mate.
No, I am. I'm here for the corrections, bro. I'm here for the corrections. And the second thing is, are you using Sumo AI to create your music before the channel starts? Is that what you use?
I don't know what AI it was, but yeah, it is AI.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Are you not a fan of it?
Oh, massive fan. I'm just here to pick, I'm just here to pick and poke, mate. Pick and poke. That's what I like to do.
It's certainly not my voice, Sean. You wouldn't want to be hearing me sing it, mate. That's for sure.
Right, thanks for the invite.
No, thank you. I was slightly dug out on your channel for not inviting you on, and I did invite you on, and here we go. Here we are. So thank you very much for coming on. So obviously, it has been a little while now since the Levy and Vinai interview. A lot of it already has been discussed, but I thought it's a very, very good place to start. Seeing on there was a bit of a weird feeling that it said, especially when I was listening to it. Part of me was very, very happy, and other parts of me were thinking this is getting all just a little bit weird. I'm not sure how you guys thought about it, so we'll briefly go over that. We'll start with Connor this time. I'm going to go with Connor because Connor's easier to say than what I've just messed up. So we'll go with Connor. What was your thoughts on the whole interview and the two buddies sat next to each other, best of friends over red wine?
Yeah, it was slightly nauseating, I have to say, and a bit cringy. But the positive, I thought Vinai came across really well. You know, he's quite clearly a good communicator, very credible. I think, he's got some good experience. I'm sure we'll jump into some of that later. But, I think he came across well. Levy, I mean, yeah, it's all about, they've sort of talked the talk, will he walk the walk, I suppose, is the question. And yeah, I mean, he's finally come out and said the ambition is to win the Premier League and the Champions League, which I don't think he's ever said before. But, I think there's making that sort of statement and backing it up are two very different things, right?
Yeah, completely agree. And obviously, we haven't heard them words before, but we have heard plenty of other stuff. I think we've got our Tottenham back is very much a saying that is thrown at Levy. He's probably opened himself up a little bit now to more criticism if we don't start challenging. Don't you think, Dan?
Look, it was good to hear. I've been asking the last couple of weeks. I wanted to hear from the club, Levy and Vinai, and they came out and they did it. So fair play, yeah. But what we listened to was there was a lot of talking, but that was it really for me. A lot of talking, but I just don't know how they're going to suddenly start challenging for the league. I mean, I don't know really what Levy's up to with statements like that. And if he's going to make a statement like that, well, how are you going to do it, Levy? How are you going to do it? Because the biggest thing at the club is the transfers, right? If they really want to challenge Liverpool, Cities, what's the plan with the transfers? How are we going to kind of raise the levels with the squad that we have? And so for me, a lot of hot air. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens this summer transfer window. And by the end of the window, then we'll kind of have an idea if they're being serious about really pushing this club on next season.
Yeah, that's the base though, isn't it? He's made the base now. He's said the words, so now it's all about him going out and proving it. I think as we've said it before, is that there's been a lot of times where we felt like he's insinuating he's now going to go on and press on, but does he actually do it? What was your thoughts on the whole interview, Chris? And where are we going to be in a few years' time now he's said them words?
Big statement. I mean, you don't finish 17th in the league and then say, right, we want to win the league. It's just mental. But I briefly caught it. It's been I've been so busy recently that I've not had a chance to fully listen or watch anything. It's just been catching glimpses here and there. But again, I agree. I think Vinai come across very well. Sounds like he's up for a challenge and he understands. He's talked about not just being involved in the football side, but he's also going to go around all the staff and talk to them and see where he can improve their day job, it seems, and how we can just get the club running as a well-oiled machine rather than just bits and pieces all trying to work together, which probably feels like it's been going at the minute. So, yeah, I think Levy's off his head if he thinks that any Tottenham fan's going to be like, oh, here we go, we're going to win the league now. This is brilliant. But actions do speak louder than words, and I think transfer window will prove it. We're being linked with everyone at the minute, so it's a typical Spurs transfer window at the minute. We're being linked with everyone, and money's being thrown around. And I don't think until we actually see the purchases and the signs and the Fabrizio Romano saying, here we go, and we see the actual players coming in, no one's going to actually believe a word that comes out of his mouth. So hopefully it's a start and it's a pushing point, and we do see the signings and we do get some players in that are got to improve the squad, and hopefully we just keep building on it.
But haven't we got to see that, and this is just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I'm sure Sean will go on to it a little bit as well, but we've been saying, as Dan said, for ages, that we need to have some sort of idea. We need to have a plan. We need to know or we want to know what's going on. Whether you should do as fans or not is probably a different question. But he's come out and told us the plan. Now, the plan for him is to go and win the biggest trophies out there. So in a way, he's obviously, if he didn't say that, he'd probably had less of a target on his back. So maybe he's put a bit more of a target on his back, and that absolutely heaped more pressure on him. But I also think that part of it is that because he's been the chairman for so long, it's kind of, we have heard things before and they haven't come to fruition. Yeah. So, but has he changed? Last year, he sort of changed the way that he owned or how he used to kind of like oversee the club. It seemed to be a bit of a change. What is your thoughts on it, Sean?
Yeah, no, I think the fan base, just typical reaction, but it's not. I don't disagree with anything anyone said, but at the same time, the fan base, I think Dan said this, right? The fan base have been asking for direction for some sort of vocalization of your ambitions, and then you finally get it, and then half the fan base are correctly saying, "Well, talk is cheap. We'll see what happens," which is fine. The other half of the fan base is saying it's shameless, it's outrageous, and it's embarrassing. And they're the same half of the fan base that have always said we want to hear these things. So like you finally hear it, and then you don't, and then you're not happy anyway. It just, for me, it just rubber stamps that that there's levels to the agendas that agendas have got to agenda. So like I'm in the former camp. I'm like, okay, great, heard it, cool. I think it's punchy to say it. And then it's a shame that what happens is that the next links that you get surrounded with are links with players that don't match that ambition. And obviously, the club's not in any way in control of the bullshit PR transfer link ITKs or whatever that just make things up and make my job easy. But yeah, so yeah, we'll see what happens. But like I say, I do think there's an element of the fan base. Like, just not to get ahead of ourselves here, but one of the transfer links in the last week has been Mohamed Kudus, right? I've heard for the last 3 years, I've heard people that have been, or the last 2.5 years, I've heard people that have been absolutely furious with Brennan Johnson, going, "We spent 50 million quid on Brennan Johnson." And well, who else would you have liked to have got for when we could have got Brennan Johnson? We could have got Mohamed Kudus. We should have got Mohamed Kudus. 45 million quid. We should have got him. All right, now we're linked with Mohamed Kudus. Those same people are saying, well, I don't want Mohamed Kudus. Don't want him. And I'm just like, it's like some people in the fan base are just it's predictable to always find a reason to predict the losing lottery numbers and to lean into the sort of like negativity. They ask for things, then they get things, and then they don't like the things that they've got that they're asking for. But I lean into the people that are saying talk is cheap. Let's wait and see. And I think that the summer's long, and the transfer window for everybody's been a damp squib so far. It's not just Tottenham that haven't done anything. It's basically very few teams that have done anything, right? Liverpool and Man City are basically it.
Yeah, and I think the Liverpool one is the big one that people jump on. But I think you're right. I don't see how Levy coming out and talking more is embarrassing if we get to the end of the summer, end of the transfer window, and we haven't signed anybody, and there's no one that's come in to match the ambition. Then you could say it's embarrassing. But right now we can't, because if he goes and signs Kudus, Semenyo, Eze, or players like this, then he's obviously. I think there's another part to this also as well. Just going on it, a lot of people are kind of thinking that we should be winning the league in a year or two. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think what he's trying to say is we have a plan. The plan is to win the Premier League and to win the top trophies. He's not put a time stamp on it, and as you said, we finished. I think Chris said we finished 17th, so it's not going to happen overnight. But at least now we know that the target isn't to keep making record revenues, keep making so much money off the pitch. That is the target that he wants to get to. And hopefully now it's the start of what's to come. So I think a lot of what's been said, a lot of what's been quoted in the newspapers and online and everything, it's all going to basically come down to who we sign. I think that's going to be the be all and end all. Moving on to
strategy, look, guys, though. I know I don't, certain things need to be kept in-house. I get that. But are we just going down the kind of bringing in younger players, developing them, hoping that Frank, does something like Pochettino? What is I don't know. Guys, anybody on the panel, do you know? Is it just same old at Spurs, or are we going to see something different? Because that interview didn't tell me that what's really going to change.
Well, it's a difficult one to know. I think no one's going to really know that answer, but I don't think you can come out with them sorts of statements and then carry on doing what we've been doing in terms of spending £40 million on your Archie Grays and your Ola Bears and that sort of. I think you now need to. You've got your young crop, so you now need to build on that. So the level of player that should be coming in now should be first 11 improvements for me. We keep improving squad, and don't improve the 11, whereas the target now should be bringing in players that improve that 11 for me. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the challenge we've got right now is, the sort of players that we really want to target, we just can't fish in that pond at the moment, right? Off the back of finishing 17th, and obviously with the model that ENIC operate, we're never going to fish in that pond of the sort of players that Liverpool and Man City have just been targeting, which, is completely then at odds with the ambition of winning the league, certainly within the next 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, So we've got to go in some ways for this model. But yeah, I agree with you, Luke. There's drastic changes that need to happen to the starting 11, and there's a number of players that could easily fit the bill. And unfortunately, I don't think we spoke about it the other day a little bit, right? Paulinia, is an example of someone who could come in as a number 6 and improve the starting 11 straight away, and it'll be 30 million. But under the current model, they're not going to pay 30 million for a 29, 30-year-old. So, I think that's the challenge we've got right now. And, right now, the one defence I'd make of the statement, and I'm not going to defend Levy a lot because it's not my way, but is he is a bit damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he'd come out and said, our aim is to get back into European places, the fan base would have been up in arms saying, how is that our expectation? We know that's the only thing that Levy's ever bothered about. So, I can see why he's come out with that ambition of challenging for the title in the Champions League, but it's just not going to happen under the current model, is it? So something's got to give.
Yeah, but as I say, hopefully the expectation is that he's put on himself now is that model that he's been going with is not gonna match up with the words that he said. So he has to go out and make their sort of statement signings after making the statement. So hopefully that's kind of where we go. I'll be very, very surprised. I think we're always going to be a team that buys youth players. I don't think that's ever going to be something we don't do. But I think that especially when you look at the last summer that we had, we got Solanke who improved the 11, and that was it. Whereas this year, if that's the same thing that happens, then I think we could be in some trouble, to be honest with you. I think that there's clear, obvious upgrades that need to be made. And even with like the experience and things like that, you can bring in a player that's played like 100, 150 games and they're 22, 23. So it doesn't necessarily have to be to the old. It doesn't have to be 30, 32s bringing in, but we just have to now start improving that 11. And that for me is all that really matters. But is it a world where at the moment there are so many clubs all looking to make transfers? Is it almost like a domino effect? I know, Sean, you've mentioned it in terms of strikers. Is it that when one goes, they all just fall in place? And you've also got, obviously, there's so many top clubs that are looking at centre backs, for instance. Savani, Huyson's already been done. So is it just a world where all of the top ones fall into place, and then the ones that it gradually goes down to the clubs that are slightly lower down the table? Sean, what do you think?
I don't know, really. I think that the Club World Cup has confused a lot of things. I think it's been a real damp squib of a tournament, but I think also that bi-part window thing is has been a little bit unusual. I think the fact that a lot of the big teams are playing at that tournament, then they might not necessarily be able to easily conduct business that they otherwise would do. And so depending on how deep they go, they might therefore, be distracted on. Like it's just a bit of another thing to think about. It might be difficult to conduct negotiations or like all of the various fitness tests, all that sort of stuff. And what I would say is, I think that there is also the kind of conundrum here of where is the market at? Because why is it that Florian Wirtz cost 125 million quid for a top player? Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here saying he's not a great player. But at the same time, you've got some of the world's sort of classiest and most exciting young talent that's available at the top end of the forward market for relatively small sums compared to him. And I don't know whether or not the Florian Wirtz thing has made everyone sort of press pause on what the correct valuations are, whether that's the buying clubs or the selling clubs. Because, on the other end of the market, you have Liam Delap. I know it was a release clause, but going for 25 million quid. If someone like Sesko is available for 70 million quid or 65 million quid, if Xavi Simons is available for 55 million quid, if Guacares is apparently available for 65 million quid or 60 million quid, like I just think everybody is kind of stuck in this world of kind of going, well, it's like a Mexican standoff. No one wants to pull the trigger first because they're not sure if the market's hot or not. And I think that with the Club World Cup and most of the a lot of the big teams being involved in that thing as well, and them not being able to conduct business, I think it just makes the whole thing very stale and very everyone's sort of in limbo. But I do agree, and I've been saying this a lot. I think that when that first sort of domino falls, whoever that is, in the striker market or in the forward market at least, whether that's Mbeumo going to United, and don't forget that United are desperate to get that one done, but they've got 3 players that are stubborn stains that they just can't shift in Sancho, Garnacho, and Rashford because of their ridiculous overpayments on their salaries. So I just think it's a weird thing that will all figure itself out in the end. But right now, it's definitely like a meeting of everyone's between a rock and a hard place because no one wants to be the first one to pull the trigger for fear of either overpaying or underselling. And that I think will figure itself out probably towards the end of the month. I'd imagine it will start getting some clarity.
I completely agree.
The
And
other
there's been
point, just to add, Luke, sorry, just to Sean's point about timing and maybe the reason why Liverpool have gone so early. Liverpool, unlike a lot of football clubs, have a May year end, whereas Tottenham and most of the other football clubs have a June year end. So what that means is by them signing players in June, they don't hit their accounts until the 25-26 accounts, whereas for us, if we sign a player in June, it'll hit our 24-25 accounts, right? So, you know, it normally the sign is if clubs are really desperate to sell players in June, most football clubs, it's probably because they've got a PSR worry. Liverpool obviously have done a lot of their business in June because of that point, because for them it doesn't matter whether it was June or July. Whereas for us, perhaps there might be a little bit of just sort of timing stuff going on.
So the big club that have the biggest issue, as far as I'm aware, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Villa have a big problem. Is are you expecting there to be an influx of players being sold in the next coming weeks then before June?
Maybe. I mean, the point you've always got with this stuff is who's to say that someone doesn't do a Chelsea and, you know, suddenly finds a hotel to sell or a women's football team to sell, and suddenly that's the way they get themselves out of this issue. I think the Villa thing, I think, is a little bit overstated in that, you know, I've seen rumours of, you know, Arsenal might suddenly go in for Morgan Rogers because of Villa's PSR issues or whatever. I'd be shocked if Morgan Rogers goes as a result of Villa's PSR. They will find another solution rather than selling their prized assets. I think what they'll struggle with more is buying, to be honest. And I think they're going to have to be more creative than they otherwise would have been had they obviously got Champions League football.
So there's a feeling that one or two of their players may get a huge offer from Saudi, even that doesn't reflect their market value, I believe. And talking what Sean was saying earlier about market value, so the reports today is that Liverpool will be selling Konza for nearly £40 million to I think it's Bayer Leverkusen, and Romero is being valued at roughly the same by Atletico Madrid. So that's exactly Sean's point in terms of, if you go early, do you spend too much or do you not spend enough, or whatever, like do you sell too early, whatever. So I definitely think that's a bit of it, which is terrible for Spurs fans, because we will sit here now and we'll just wallow in the rumours for the next couple of weeks. But as long as the rumours keep coming in, content will keep content in. So that's the main part. So obviously, as I say, that was Levy and Vinai's interview. We've also obviously had Frank's interview as well. There was a bit more released today on the Spurs YouTube channel of him wandering around playing a bit of table tennis with Vinny as well, which was a bit of an interesting one, showing him all around the stadium, the training ground, showing him bits and pieces. What was there anything that we should really take from Frank's interview? I think probably the biggest piece for me was the fact Sonny wasn't mentioned. I think that when you have an interview as a brand new manager, normally one of your first kind of comments around any players will be the current club captain. That seemed to be missing. Did that surprise you at all, Sean?
I didn't even notice it, to be honest, mate, until you just said it. But I think, yeah, look, I mean, I've been saying for ages, I think that Sonny's going to go. I think he has to leave the club. I think he has to. Like, I think that we've got too many. If it's true that we're trying to bring in a striker or a creative player or two, then I think that when you've got 11 wingers on the 11 sort of, forwards or whatever, 12 forwards on the roster, then I think you have to get that number down to like 6 or 7 before you can bring someone in. And the fact that we've brought in Matisse Tell and the noises that they're going to have a look at Manor Solomon, even though I think Solomon has to go as well, if I'm entirely honest, just as for the player rationale, nothing else. I think that they're probably going to shake hands with Sonny as well. And, where he goes, what we get for him, whether it's Fenerbahce to join up with Mourinho, although I don't know if you guys saw the story that came out of Turkey. The entire Turkish FA have been caught for like leaked WhatsApp messages, basically saying we have to get Mourinho. I've had enough of this geezer. He's basically a bad dude or whatever. Like wild. Like the football's biggest victim, Jose Mourinho, finally gets some evidence to support his claims. But yeah, so whether Sonny goes there or goes to Saudi Arabia, I think it's right. I think it makes sense. I know he's going to have to hang around for the first game of the tour, but I don't think he'll be playing Premier League football for Tottenham next season. So yeah, and I hadn't noticed that he wasn't mentioned in the Frank interview. Other than that, the Frank interview I thought was pretty good. I thought he came across really humble. I think he came across really sort of confident, but in a humble way, bit of humility, which is always nice. And he wasn't sort of suggesting that we have to do a 180 and rebuild and everything. He was basically saying that we're going to take the success of what happened under Ange and run with it, and just a couple of little pivots here and there. And he also said he wants to play good football, right? Which is nice to know, nice to see. Because I know he's got that in his engine, but obviously at times over the last few years, he's adapted to the circumstance in which he's found himself as a Brentford manager, which is what I think every manager should do. And it's nice to know that we're going to have a manager that is considerate and contemplating who we're playing in what scenario, and we'll pick a team and a system and all that stuff for the environment. So yeah, I was really impressed with it, to be honest, mate. I thought it was a really, really nice interview. But yeah, as far as Sonny goes, I hadn't noticed, but if that's the case, then it probably adds it makes sense that therefore we can all assume he's probably going to not be here.
Apparently, TalkSport have come out with a story that just before we went live here, saying that there's 3 Saudi clubs that have all shown an interest. They're prepared to pay about £34 million. So maybe it's something that's already pre-agreed, which is why the comment wasn't made or his name wasn't mentioned. But Chris, what do you think of the Frank interview if you've seen it, and then also obviously Son not being a part of that? What's your take on it?
I've not seen the whole thing, but I have seen some clips on it. And again, I think he comes across as just being a genuinely nice person. He seems like he's down to earth. As I say, for me, he doesn't personally light up the stage for me. I don't think when he was appointed, I was like, it was obviously going to happen, but I don't get really excited. But I just hope that he comes in and he steadies the ship, and he does bring on a lot of the youth players. So hopefully, as I said before, I think when we bought Archie Gray, he was also in for him, and he really liked him. He's shown his admiration for him. So hopefully players like that will get a massive boost out of him coming, and hopefully we'll get the coaching and the progression that they need, as well as getting in some good players and just genuinely just playing exciting football.
Dan, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was a really nice interview, wasn't it, from Frank? I think he said a lot of the right things that we want to hear as fans. He talked a lot about the fans, making sure they're included in what they're doing. He said about attacking football, wants to play on the front foot. He's going to continue what Ange has done last season. Very respectful guy, he praised Ange for winning that trophy, the players as well. And look, I think it's a sensible appointment, right? I get what Chris is saying. It's not really exciting, but he's a guy, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, he's done a fantastic job at Brentford, with the budget they've got, the resources, what he's done to them. And I mean, look, he kind of brought in unknowns at Brentford, and he's turned them into Premier League players and other clubs are looking at those players now. So there's something to say about the coaching, something to say about how he builds teams, togetherness, bringing in the fans as well as part of it. He talked about having, our ground being a fortress. I like that, because it's so important, isn't it? Having a good home record, whatever. So look, a lot of good things. There was something else I was going to say. Just come back to me. I mean, I'm kind of caught, right? So we had that interview with Levy, Vinai, and it was like, questionable, my point of view. And then you have the Frank interview, which, made me happier, because I think he's a genuine guy, intelligent guy. I think he can get us back up that league. How far he can take us, I don't know. It's all going to be depending on the backing, right? So there's part of me thinking, well, Levy's saying, okay, we want to win the league, we want to win the Champions League, and it's probably unrealistic, right? We'd love to build towards that over a couple of seasons. And that was probably a more sensible thing to say from Levy, is that, this is that's our aim, is to win the league in XX years or whatever. And you can get that. So then what's the plan to get there? with the transfer window and whatever, and backing Frank and what Frank needs. I like Frank. He said about not just focusing on the young players, but he also said about the players who've been there already. You know, Bentancur, Maddison, particularly. He mentioned that he wants to make sure that their games continue to
Solanke,
improve.
isn't it?
Solanke is another one. Yeah, he likes Solanke. He thinks he's going to score a lot of goals under him. So yeah, look. So for me, I mean, I don't believe in challenging for titles and Champions League. It's unrealistic unless we spend millions and millions of pounds in the transfer windows in the next 2 or 3. So I'm hoping that Frank can get us as near as possible somebody like Poch. Yeah. I mean, under Poch, fantastic times for me as a fan, many, many fans. So I'm hoping that Frank can kind of get us in shape on that kind of way.
Yeah, completely agree. Connor, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with all of that. I mean, he came across really well. I was actually a bit of an advocate for Frank before he got the job, so probably a bit more excited than it sounds like maybe Chris and Dan were. But I think with Frank, I think the thing for me is obviously he's known for stability a bit, but actually for me, what's most impressive what he's done with different types of attacking profile. So, he's gone from Watkins through to Tony, through to Mbeumo and Vissa now, and got all of those different types of attacking profile scoring. And they're very different, all 4 of those. And I think that's what gives me some comfort that he'll be able to make the step up from a team like Brentford to a team like Spurs, where obviously there's a different level of expectation. And so, sometimes these managers can do well at lower clubs by setting up in a certain way and
Yep.
the Moyes effect of just in points. But I think there's enough in that sort of work that Frank has done that gives me some hope that he'll be able to improve our attacking output, as well as obviously giving us way more stability than we had under Ange. So I think, look, we all know the squad needs serious work. But I think just the change in system and having that sort of adaptability and stability, this squad is not the 17th best squad or 4th worst squad in the league, is it? So I think, I'm quite excited for Frank in that sense. And yeah, obviously the interview came across really well.
Yeah, so obviously in terms of the squad that we've currently got, I think you're definitely right. It's not a squad that should be in the bottom half of the table, but at the same time, this isn't a squad that will be realistically challenging in the top 6, probably top 7. I think that's probably where this squad is. How much in terms of like for next year, what's our expectations in terms of the budget that's going to be available? So obviously Levy's made that statement. Matt Law, I think it was, came out and said that we need to buy to sell. Now, was that a statement released from the club? Was that more around we have so many players in our squad that we need to sell them before we can start looking? Where do we think in terms of like our budgets without that going, so including selling players off here, what do we think is a realistic budget to get Frank what he wants, but also start the journey of moving back up that sort of table? Chris, what would you like to see?
Sorry, mate, I didn't get any of that. Say that again. I was too busy in the chat, in the comments.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. I was basically just saying that in terms of what Frank needs, in terms of the statements Levy's made, what do we expect the budget to be this year before we sell players? So it's not including selling off your Sons for 30 million, everything else. What sort of budget do you expect us to go into the transfer window with?
Surely it can't be anything less than like 150 million with Champions League money and everything else. I can't see that. I think the biggest blocker for the transfer window, if it doesn't change, is going to be the wage structure and the wage budget. And I think that's going to be the key, because I think we've got the money to go and spend 50, 60 million pound on a player 2 or 3 times, but it's going to be the wages that we offer. I mean, Timo Werner was on 175 grand a week, and apparently we're not offering even that money to some players. So there needs to be a shift in that wage budget, and that's going to be a stumbling block for me. It's not going to be the actual transfer budget. I think the money is there. It's going to be how much we give players wages and where that structure is. That's going to be the big stumbling block.
So you think it'll be around 100? You think 150 million without player sales?
Yeah, it has to be, surely. We're not in a bad financial state, and with just the Champions League money coming in, obviously 17th place, you don't get a great deal of money, but surely with the Europa League run and obviously winning the trophy, getting into the Champions League and what that brings ahead for us, it's got to be 150 million, surely.
Dan, what do you reckon? Do you think 150 is a little bit on the high side?
No idea. I don't know. We don't know, do we? We're all like guessing. Obviously, if you look at transfer windows in the past, that's the kind of rough money we spend, right? Anything between 150, 200 million or whatever. For me, there's some players that need to go. And, that's not going to be a fast process, is it? Frank's going to need to decide who he wants to stay, what players want to stay. He talked about he likes hard workers, and that's a non-negotiable. Do you remember that? He said that. So he's going to be looking at these players. When are the players back for pre-season, guys? Do we know? Do we have a date?
No, I don't think anything's been confirmed yet.
July sort of time, I guess.
Yeah, I think they need to have a minimum of 3 weeks off. You have to have that by the Premier League put that as a stipulation. But obviously with the World Club Cup, I think everyone other than the teams competing in it will pass that by with plenty of time. So, but I don't think they've actually confirmed exactly when they're coming back in just yet. I don't think there's been anything confirmed.
And also, do you think Frank has the pulling power to kind of bring in the better players out there? Has he got that pull? That's another thing. We'll just put it to the panel. What do you think, guys, with that? Looking at a top player coming in, will they come and play?
I think, to be honest, I think that whole manager pool bit is a bit exaggerated. I think if you pay the wages, players will join. I think it's, you look at, Arsenal hired Arteta with no previous experience. Chelsea got Maresca. That has been. I think that there has been a bit of a shift in sort of the top Premier League clubs outside of Man City in terms of the type of manager they're targeting. Even Liverpool with Slot, right? Slot did a good job in Holland, but he wasn't a huge name, and he finished second actually in the year before he joined Liverpool. So I think it's all about wages, as Chris said. Whilst I'm talking on the net spend piece, I think, without outgoings, I suspect we will spend somewhere like 100 to 150 would be my guess. I think since we moved into the new stadium, we spent an average of 127 million net a year on transfers. So actually the budget has been there for transfers, to Chris's point. Where it hasn't been there is on wages, where in that same period we've spent 600 million less than the big six average. So wages is where it hasn't been, but there certainly has been money for transfers.
Yeah.
So guys, say there's 4 players coming in, just say a number, rough number. Everyone on the panel and in the chat, what does that look like? Is that 3 experienced players and then 1 up and coming? What is it? What would everybody be kind of content with by the end of the transfer window?
If we are going to get 4 in, I'd like to see at least 2 of them be or have some sort of Premier League experience, first of all, because we keep, on the last one we done, Luke, on Monday, we was talking about these players, and you've got the Dutch league, the French league, but we've done it before. We've brought in the Dutch league players and the Spanish league players and the French league players, and they've just not been up to scratch. I'm not saying that they're all going to turn up and they're not going to be good, but I would like, for me personally, I would like to see some players come in that have actually got the Premier League experience, and players like your Eze's and your Embremos, they're not like an elite class of player, but I think they do bring squad improvements, and they also bring that Premier League experience. And that's what I would like to see, with potentially not an underdog, but maybe someone from from abroad that's got the potential. We've been burnt before with the potential of players, but someone that we would come in with that potential to try and get someone in. And then another one, if we do bring in a youngster, again, that's got the talent that is maybe touching borderline on the first team. But I'd like to, for me personally, that's what I think we'd see. We need 3 players that are ready to go straight into that starting 11 at least. I think for me, we're going to bring in 4. 3 need to be, and 1 needs to be there or working towards it or not far away from it. None of these, we can't be bringing in players that we're going to bring in and then loan straight out again, because it just doesn't seem to work for us. It doesn't seem to be the way that we do it, and it doesn't improve our squad now.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's the number that I think. I think we need three players that come in and improve the 11, and then there might be one younger player or one squad option. For instance, a Carl Walker-Peters makes so much sense in so many ways, just to be the fourth option as a fullback, to be club trained in the Champions League, someone like that. But I think that we need to at least get two, but three is the target that I think that we need to have. And as I say, when you start adding in the players that we may get rid of, then the money added on top of the budget we already had should definitely be there or thereabouts, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same page, to be honest. I would imagine that there's probably going to be at a push 5 players that come in this summer, but yeah, I think 2 of them will be names that we're not really that aware of.
Yeah,
doesn't mean that they're not going to be good players. There's so much talent out there. Just about trying to find them, and I think that Thomas Frank coming in with his team, we have access to the same data that Brentford do. By the way, right? It's not like they have access to data that we don't. It's just that they know how to use it, I guess, better, right? How to manipulate it and how to sort of plug it into that system. Now, so I expect that there will be a couple of players that will be slightly under the radar signings, but if that's all we're given, I think there'll be, and rightly so, uproar, especially when you're on the back of what you just heard Daniel Levy say. The one thing I forgot to mention earlier, right? So, I'm someone that leans into I want to be glass half full. So, if I hear Daniel Levy saying it's time for the title push, obviously I agree, not happening immediately, but that's the end game. You can take him on his word and go, okay, now the proof will be in the pudding. But at the same time, you could also think back to when was the last time Daniel Levy spoke in public about Tottenham? Basically, it was the 9th or 10th game in that first period when everything was rosy under Ange Postecoglou, and he came out and said, we've got our Tottenham back. And it all went downhill from there, right? So he's a bit of an opportunist at the same time, right? So he waits until the wind is in the sails to come out and then make and sort of do his sort of biannual, I'm here, guys. Don't I'm listening and I'm paying attention. So the cynic in me is well, that's just another one of those moments where he's taken the opportunity because the wind's in our sails. He got that trophy and he wants to let everyone know he means it. But whether he does or he doesn't, we'll have to wait and see. But having said that, if you then back that up, knowing what Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Newcastle, Man United, etc., are all already intending to do, then if all we're given is links like Callum Mwendo, or that sort of caliber signing, maybe a value trade for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to go and get something that makes everyone sit up straight. And I think that, to answer your question directly, so I'm going off on a little rant, but I think that there's a high likelihood that you'll get sort of 2 Premier League proven players that are not going to be £90 million players, but maybe a £60 million or something, maybe a £40 million. And then I think you'll go and get maybe one that's a decent name, but from a different league. And then I think you'll also get a couple of younger kids in there as well that we haven't heard of, or maybe there'll be a Bergwall, but then maybe there'll be an Archie Gray. Who knows?
Guys, can I tell you, the important positions for me? Is that all right, Luke? Or is there a section on that?
No, there is a sort of section on it, but we can do that now because they all kind of roll into one anyway. So where do we need?
You sure?
Yeah.
So for me, I think we need something in that forward line, something exciting, something is going to create, get a bum off our seat, be a difference maker, game changer. We've got guys, we're in the Champions League next season. We've got some tough games playing against the top sides in the league. We need something different. We need something that, when you go into a game, right, say if we're away from home, you're going somewhere like Newcastle, Liverpool, you've got that weapon, that can make a difference. I look across that forward line. I don't think we have one. I think Maddison's a good player, right? But we need someone to play off him. So I think it's crucial that we kind of get that kind of game-changing player. So that's so important for us. I just think it's just, as fans, that's what we love to see. And that's what we've seen in the past with many players who've played for us. So then
what
I think that's
position,
important. Oh, well, this is it, isn't it?
If it's someone to play off Maddison, do you want a new striker? Would you want a new winger?
It's got to be a game changer. It's got to be, Eze, there's a lot of talk about Eze, right? I like Eze. I think he's a really good player. I think he could really really take his game up another level coming to Spurs. I mean, somebody like that, right? For an example, if not, then someone like Mbeumo, you know, who's always going to be a danger to opposition teams. So I think that's crucial, right? We need that attacking player, whatever it is, winger, attacking midfielder. I mean, Chris, it's interesting you said about the forward. And then also, Sean, you've talked a lot about the forward market, right? There's a lot of options in that forward line. Do we go for a really good striker, you know, to fight for that place with Solanke? Because I think Solanke's a good player. He's a hard-working player, but he's not.
Leaving, Dan. Richarlison's cop blocking the entire squad, mate.
Yeah,
He's
this
to go,
is it, isn't it? This is the problem as well, right? We can't shift him out. So, look, so that's a priority for me. I don't know what they're going to do, but I hope they bring someone in. And then we obviously in midfield, right? We need someone more defensive in there, defensive midfielder. And I'm hoping that they're looking for something there, a solution in that midfield. And then I think we need cover at left back. I really do. I think that they're probably the three most important positions for me. Hopefully we can do more, but I mean, it's, you know, I'm not going to get ahead of myself.
I think. Sorry.
Now go.
I was going to say, yeah, I'll sort of riff off of Dan there. Like, I think that for me, wingers are valuable. Don't get me wrong. Like, we definitely need an improvement in a winger spot, but wingers are not going to be banging in 20 goals for you. And if Tottenham want to like really elevate their chances and go deep in competitions, I think you need a killer at the top end of the pitch. And if you gave me a choice right now, out of like an Mbeumo, don't get me wrong, love him. I'm more than happy to take him. But if I had my choice right now, Mbeumo or Jonathan David, and Jonathan David, for what it's worth, is a free transfer, right? But he hasn't gone anywhere. Or a
free transfer.
Yeah, not a free transfer. You know what I mean? Like, it's still going to cost you 70%. But it's just, but in terms of like, how comfortable am I going to feel about, I don't know, Xavi Simons coming in, right, and then just like crafting amazing opportunities galore, and then putting it into Richarlison? You know, I'm like, it's not really the solution here. And I think you have enough I genuinely do think we have a lot of creativity, and I genuinely do think we have our wingers can explode with a little bit of a better pivot into a wing, like an inside forward role from them, rather than a touchline winger role. I'm still very open-minded to the idea that we can do better in that role as well. But if you're give me the preference right now, a monster on the wing or a monster at the 9, monster in the 9 all day long. But getting rid of Richarlison is a problem.
But is there an argument to say that with Frank's system, your wingers are more inside forward, therefore closer to the goal? So instead of it being a 30 goal or 25 goal season man, maybe you have 3 that get 15, 20 each.
Well, yeah, but we had that this year, right? I think Tottenham. We were the only club in all of Europe that had 5 players that got more than 20 GA or something from the same team or the same squad. So, like, we create a lot of opportunities. I just think that I think the tactic was the tactic to use, like, we didn't use Solanke in the same vein as we used Richarlison. I think that Solanke was a victim of being a better ball player and a better connector in chief, and he was used to this sacrificial lamb where he was asked to sort of pull players out of position. And Brennan Johnson was a massive benefactor of a Solanke's style in the system that Ange asked him to be used. I do think that Solanke will get a lot more output next season in a traditional role used by Thomas Frank, but I still don't think that Dominic Solanke is a killer. He's not a killer, right? And you look at players that are out there for and they're not like bank breaking amounts of money. Like I say, you can go and get Gokares, who scored 100 goals in 102 appearances for 68 million euros. I don't know why no one's pulling the trigger. I do not understand it, but like that's the sort of baseline benchmark analysis of what it's going to cost you. Sesko's a different sort of player. He's a little bit more of more of an inside forward, but there's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of strikers out there. There's never been, in my opinion, so many decent strikers available in the same time, and so few major clubs that are looking for them. And I just think that Tottenham, I think, will be a bigger benefactor if you go and get a killer, like someone who you just know. You give the ball to him, you know, not that I'm sort of comparing to Harry Kane, but someone where if the ball's scrappy and loose in the box and it falls to that guy, 9 times out of 10 he's going to put it away. We haven't got one of those guys. We haven't got it. And I look at our wingers and I think actually a lot of the wingers that we have are underperforming relative to their ability, their potential. But I look at Richarlison and I think you can't trap a bag of cement. And the fact that when you play, the entire squad, the entire team has to re-pivot to a different facility, a different system where we're lumping balls into the area because you're only really very good as a threat in the box, in the air.
But do you see a world where we keep Richarlison and sign another striker?
No,
because if he is the ultimate little brother,
he is. He's the little brother. He won't piss off and go skateboarding with his mates so that I can get laid. You know what I mean? It's really, really frustrating. Just go away, mate. Go to Saudi. Go back to Brazil. You still get your place in the Brazil team. Or go to Everton. But come on now, this is big boy stuff, and you're not really of that level for me.
It's not a surprise, and we've got in the chat. Most people have named their targets, and one of these 4 are being put in virtually every single comment. And just before again we came live, I don't know whether they were saying just before we came live that I'm not sure whether this is a typo, but the Standard have said that Man United have upped their bid for Mbeumo, but he's said to be leaning towards a move to Spurs. Now I don't know whether that's a typo and it's supposed to be he's leaning more towards Manchester, because that's all we've heard. But out of them 4, stylistically, they are very, very different players. But out of them 4, would any of them 4 be the sort of what we call needle mover for you if we signed one of them 4? Is there some that you just don't think will cut it? In terms of if it's one of these, what would your thoughts be on bringing in one of these? Or maybe even 2 of them? Is that a stretch? Probably. But if we're being ambitious and going for the league, you never know. Chris, what would out of them, what's your favourite out of all of them 4?
I think if we signed any of them, 2 of any of them names, I think it would be an improvement. Eze, Mbeumo, again, would be an improvement. I'd be quite happy with any 2 of them, to be honest with you. I don't think. I mean, Kudus and Mbeumo on the right hand side. Maybe Kudus could go left hand side. Same
Kudus is a real strange one. I texted the link for Kudus today to 2 West Ham fans of mine, and one text back saying you can have him, and the other one said you ain't getting him. So it's literally like chalk and cheese. Like there's a section of the fan base that are just like, you can take him. He's done virtually nothing this year. His goals and assists are not good enough. And then there's others that go on his days unplayable. If he goes to a better team, he'll be virtually unbelievable. So they can't even make up their mind. So God knows how we're making up our mind on a player that the fans are watching week in, week out don't know.
I mean, Eze and Mbeumo would be, I mean, obviously coming from a team that Frank managed previously would be a big benefit for him coming to us. He'd probably feel a bit more comfortable and a bit more at home having the manager there that was with him last season. And Eze, I think, would just be an exciting player to have. So for me, it'd be them 2, Eze and Mbeumo.
And if you had to pick one, you can only pick one of them. What one are you going with? Eze or Mbeumo?
I think Mbeumo, just because I'd like to see someone on that right-hand side other than Brennan Johnson.
Dan, out of them 4, if you had to pick one, what would be your main?
Just go and get Eze and Mbeumo, bring him in tomorrow. To get them, honestly, we need.
Imagine we woke up to the news tomorrow that we've signed.
What are we waiting for here? Just go and buy him. No, look, seriously, as I said, I like Eze. You know, I really do. I mean, he can do things that a lot of our players can't do. Maddison's obviously got good technical ability as well, and that pace on the right. The finishing Mbeumo last season for Brentford was so clinical, wasn't he? Did it all season. 20 goals he got, didn't he? So, look, he comes into the side. He makes a definite improvement straight away. Gives us something different, more direct, more dangerous. Like I said, you go away from home to places like Newcastle, Liverpool, City, that you've got that threat on the counter-attack. So we need pace. We need clinical finishers. And then again, I mean, you know what Sean says about a clinical striker, a killer. I have to agree we need that, because Solanke's not it, Richarlison's not it. So there's a bit of work to do. What guys? What do you think of that link to that French player earlier this week? Is there any truth in it? To be honest, I don't know anything of him.
I think it's what
Window.
Yeah,
He's like. I've got no idea if there's any truth to it. I've got no idea. It's getting around though. It's getting around as like people are saying it's close. It's, it's blah 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 blah. But listen, I think that there's going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of links this summer to French players, not just for Tottenham, but all across the Premier League, because the French league is in like financial freefall essentially. I mean, Connor might be able to shed a little bit more light on this one if he knows some things. But like, as far as I understand it, the media rights deal that last year basically, I'm not sure if it's like they've struggled to pay or it collapsed or I don't know what happened. Connor, maybe if you know, let me know. But as a consequence of that, like a lot of young talent that was signed into the French league that has improved relative to the value that they were when they were bought. If they bought a player at 25 million quid, they're still valued at 25 million quid because the French clubs need to raise revenue, despite these players kicking on. And Callum Mwendo is one of those players. I think he came from Lens for 25 million euros a couple of years earlier, done really well, but he's available for 25 million euros from Rennes because Rennes are financially in trouble. And
is he any good though? Is he any good? Does anyone know much about him?
I ran him through the Y-Scout, mate. He looks like he's a really good player. He looks like he's 2-footed. He's technical. He's crafty. And but I honestly don't watch the Ligue 1, so I've got no idea whether the standard is transferable. But from what I've seen, he looks like he can find the bottom corner. Looks like he's got like a bit of I actually mocked people for saying this, but I actually can kind of see it now. He does have a little bit of that Jermaine Defoe. I just thought people were saying it because he's 5'9" and he's a black guy. Right? That'll do. That's enough of a comparison. But he actually does have a little bit of that Jermaine Defoe kind of like, sort of sniper kind of style to him, and he's clever and he can play off the right, the left, and through the middle. So I don't hate it, but he's not going to wow me. I'm not going to sit there and go, there you go. That's how we get out of the Champions League group stages or the league stage next year. So I'll be okay with it. But if that's the level that we're achieving or we're trying to achieve here, then it's very underwhelming. Yeah.
That for me is a squad signing.
Yeah. I think the challenge we've got. I think the challenge we got, and I agree with everything Dan and Sean both said about the striker, because I don't think Solanke's good enough. But I just don't think the club is going to move on just yet after forking out 65 million and Solanke having given him 1 year. I just don't think they will go for a big money striker signing, which is why maybe someone like a Jonathan David, which is a free but not really a free, but is not a significant investment, is a good option probably. And that's obviously on the basis that you get rid of Richarlison. I mean, on the other four, for me, it should be Eze plus one of the other three. If we were a serious club with ambition, because I think Eze can rotate with Maddison in game, or fill in for Maddison when Maddison's injured if we need him to play in the 10. He can also play out on the left as the inside forward, so it gives you a bit of versatility there. And then I think with the other ones is you sign an Embuemo, he can play down the middle or mostly out on the right. So you got some options with him. It should be two of those four, in my opinion, with Eze plus one other. But obviously, I'm not sure we will be as ambitious as that.
Just quickly,
and also another thing, guys.
Super quick. If there's 316 people watching this show right now, it's an absolute disgrace that that you guys haven't smashed the subscribe button to Lukey's channel. It's an absolute disgrace. It takes nothing. It's free to do. Get out your thumb, get out your finger, on whatever device you're doing, and smash the subscribe. And don't forget the like button. Rule 1.
We have 38 subs needed to reach 1,000. So
come on, guys.
There you go. 10% of you. 10% of you, and we're nearly there. So completely agree. Go on, Dan. What was you going to say? Thanks, Phil.
No, come on. Yeah, people smash the sub. Get him up to 1K, man. He's nearly there now. Yeah, what I was going to say is about the formation as well, Frank, right? So we know he plays two different formations. I know we have no idea. Frank mentioned that he has an idea, in his interview, he's been kind of working out in his head. What is he going to do? Is he going to go 3 at the back? Is he going to go 4 at the back? What do people think?
I had Euro expert. Some of you might know of him. I'm surprised if you haven't. He done like sensible transfers for Athletic and things like that. And he came on my show this week and he was discussing it. And I said to him, one of the concerns that I have with Frank is that I feel like he might be a bit too adaptable. So he might try and be a bit too clever with players like, say we're going away to Wolves, and he tries to change it up to nullify them. And Spurs fans will basically be like, no, we're Spurs. They should be worrying about us, not the other way around. And he went, I've thought about it a completely different way. And I actually think that he'll be really good in a Champions League away to a big team. He's able to maybe go free at the back or change it up. So I was thinking it from a negative point of view and he was thinking it from a positive. But the expectation, I think, from many is that it will be 4-2-3-1 because that's what he's actually played more at Brentford than he has any other formation. It was only when they first came up and they was kind of solidifying themselves as a Premier League club that they played free at the back. He did go to it in games when they was, for instance, had a bit of pressure or whatever. But the majority of his games, specifically this season, have been 4-2-3-1. So, and your wingers are more inverted with your fullbacks providing the width. I don't know whether any of you agree with that or if you think that that's what. But that's where I think we'll be going.
I mean, even in his interview, Frank said 4 forwards, didn't he? You know, so which is basically 4-2-3-1. So I think.
Unless we're going to go and sign loads of strikers, we ain't going to play with 2 up top, are we? I don't think we're ever going to see Spurs with a 2 up top. It'd be very rare. It might be a 75th minute substitute to just chuck some like one of the young, if like a Lancashire or someone doesn't go out on loan, just chuck them on and we just stick 2 up front and just see if we can try and nick a goal. But 4-2-3-1 seems to be the main sort of formation that he uses.
Yeah. So in terms of obviously that's the forward line that we've all kind of agreed to. If we was to go out and get a striker, in what sort of area are we is a Gyökeres a realistic target for Spurs at this moment in time? Do you think that that's something that do we get rid of Richie? Would we have 3 of them? Do you think that that's actually realistic? I mean, if he came, I think it would be an unbelievable statement. But is it something that's realistic on our side? Gyökeres.
No, he's not coming to Tottenham. Forget about that. He's not coming to Tottenham. No.
So what's his salary? What do you think he'll want a week?
If you're spending 70 million on a player,
280,
yeah, 2 to 3.
Yeah, it'll be high wages because the fee isn't that bad, right? It's a release clause style.
He's not coming to Tottenham.
He won't come, no. And
can you imagine?
Oh, listen! I'd be walking around with like a new strut, like I was part of a new gang or something. I'll be walking around with a certain style limp, shoulders back, rocking like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor. I'll be doing that kind of doing that walk all around. I'll take the dog out for a walk every day. You'd be seeing a different version of me if we sign Gyökeres, but it's not going to happen. So we need to know. We need to kind of recognise what level of what size pond we fish in. I think
how far below that level do we shop?
The next tier down. That's the next tier down.
Really, what would you say?
We can compete with Newcastle. We can compete with Villa. We can compete with anybody else. But if I would say that as much as it kills me to say it, I think we can compete with Man United as well. To be honest, but if on the draw, but if Liverpool or City or Arsenal come calling, we probably don't get the call, don't get the nod. So
how would Liverpool guys? Sorry, just a question because you might know more than me. How did Liverpool manage to spend more, or they just have been really clever with their transfers?
I could probably answer that if that's I mean, look, I think with Liverpool, they make more revenue than us. For a start, they've got bigger commercial income, and obviously they've had more years of getting into the Champions League, etc. So that they make more than us. I think with Liverpool, obviously they've been really smart in the market over the years, better at selling players than we are. So there's that money that comes through. Obviously, last summer window they only signed Chiesa, so they're almost doing 2 windows in one in this window. FSG as owners have put in more than Levy and Enquiries, but actually not a lot comparatively compared to a lot of other clubs. But yeah, it's basically those things, and you know they're probably the best run club in the country in terms of that balance between recruiting well, earning a lot, and selling well.
Success? Did you think success is kind of putting them in that position better financially? Yeah, as well.
Yeah, I mean
regular
they're a bigger
success.
commercial. Yeah, they're a bigger commercial draw than Tottenham right now because of the fact that it is Liverpool and they've got a history of winning things, and that pulls in more money from sponsors, and then obviously you get more money in terms of the Champions League revenue and those types of things. Obviously, what we have over them a little bit is the fact that our stadium makes more than theirs in terms of match day ticket revenue. And in terms of the events, but to be fair, they did 3 concerts for Taylor Swift at Anfield as well in this year, so they got a bit from that as well. But yeah, I think it's really historic success that's driving their revenue higher than us.
I think it's all, as you said, as well. They don't spend, like, it's the same with City. Everyone's harped on about how much City spent this transfer window and obviously in January, but actually previous to that, their spend was relatively low compared to others. And then when you add in how well they sell players, I mean, there's some of their youth players that they sell off for the amount of money that they get from them when they've not even really played any real football for them is pretty incredible. So I think that's one of our biggest problems, I think, over the last few years has been that we've got players that we can't sell. I mean, to get into a situation where you need to release and pay up for Matt Doherty to get him out of his contract so that he can go and sign for someone else because we didn't know we had too many players. Like, that's just a crazy situation. But I always feel like we've been in that situation quite a lot where we've got players, your Auriers, Doherty's, Ndombele's, Lo Celso's. We're literally in a position where we're trying to give these players away because we can't sell them. Whereas, as you said, Liverpool, Cities, they're able to get and sell these players, make 20, 30, 40 million per player. And then all of a sudden, all that money goes back in and they've sold 2 of them. They've got 80 odd million extra. Whereas for us, we just don't seem to have that. But hopefully now we're changing, because even the players that we're going to possibly mention in a bit about the players we could get rid of, they've all got fees attached to them. Some of them are a bit lower, but they have got fees. So we're talking about Richie potentially not going on, not Sonny, him being able to be sold. There's all fees there that are a part of it. Solomon, even £20 million for a player that's people agree or disagree with it, but he was out on loan last season. He was deemed not good enough for this squad. He was deemed probably talking 5th, 6th, 7th choice, and yet we're getting £20 million for him or £15 million for him. So I think we're in a bit different situation now, and that's why I said earlier about Levy. I think he's now. There is the excuses have kind of run out. We had COVID, that was an excuse. We weren't in Champions League, that was an excuse. This was an excuse. Whereas now everything's aligned, and it's like now you really need to you've got all the capabilities to push on. Now we need to actually see it and show it.
How can Spurs? Sorry, go on, man. You go first.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's the risk of our own model. The fact that we. Ndombele is the exception, right? And I think Levy's been burnt by that experience because that was one where it was big transfer fee and big wages. But I think this model of, not paying wages, and therefore, even when you spend big, you're almost getting the sort of second tier of that type of player. So you spend 60 million on a Richarlison, for example, but he's only on 90 grand a week. So you just create a risk for yourself where these players are going to be likely not as good because they're not wanting to have as big wages, and so it's almost like you're buying cheap on wages, so you're buying twice, and then you're struggling to sell those players. So it's almost I think it's something that our own model has perpetuated, to be honest, over the years.
Yeah, it's almost like a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah, like we just struggle to move on players, don't we? What does that say to everyone? Why can't we get rid of them? Is that our recruitment so bad? Are these players so bad? I don't think they are. I don't know. I mean, guys, with this whole recruitment, and we have this conversation season in, season out, are they actually ever gonna, improve it? Are they actually gonna get it right? And what are those factors or variables what will make it right, in everyone's opinion?
Yeah, well, I think that is the statement that he's made now, hasn't he? So it's about getting it right. I don't think that. I think Frank, the way that he improves players, I think that he's a smart The thing with Frank is that I think there's two massive sides that you can look at it. Is one is that he's very adept at being able to adapt, get the best out of what he's got, not spend a lot of money, not have huge wages. So is he perfect for what we want to be? Or you could flip it the other way and go, is he a manager that's perfectly capable now of taking that next step and being able to challenge and get better players? So you could argue both ways in terms of what we're going to do from here on. But the facts is that we can talk till the cows come home. But until we start signing players, that's going to be you're going to clearly see where the intent is by the players that are signed. If we go out and sign Eze's, you know where he's looking. If we go out and sign League One players that are possibly going to come in and be a backup, then again, you know where we kind of sit with it. So I think it very much just all solely just depends on the sort of transfers that we see come through the door. Even things like that are being linked. I mean, there's been a lot of rumours recently about the Vicario situation. He wants to go. Does he not want to go? Does he want to be here? Does he not? And then it's like, well, what goalkeeper are you going to bring in? Are you going to be serious and go for a top level goalkeeper or a very good level goalkeeper? Or are you going to bring in someone that's, again, a top 8 goalkeeper that's going to be there or thereabouts in this? So it's all just about where we're going to go with it from there, I think. So we have obviously discussed about where. So in terms of that was what I was going to just say just quickly while I was on the transfer thing. In terms of with you, kind of obviously most of you have sort of picked who your star was out of them for. If you had one player that you could just go and sign, for me it's Eze. I think we should just go and get him, regardless of what it costs. He's available. You've got the release clause. You can just go out and pay it. Who would be the one player that you just say, look, let's just go and get him. He just needs to be signed. Let's start with you, Sean.
What? Realistic, but not necessarily linked?
Yeah, just who you think, if just one player that just comes in, improves the 11, and like, because I think that we're almost latching on that. We just need a tiny bit of proof that what Levy said. So a player that you just go.
The obvious and easy answers I'm not going to choose. I'll leave that for other people if they want to go that direction. There's a player that I have absolutely like wet myself over the idea of him coming to Tottenham. And Leverkusen are going through a massive clear out right now. They're getting absolutely sort of ripped apart by their team since Alonso's left, similar to how Bournemouth are going through it. There's a player there who plays in the 6, but he's a ball-playing, amazing passer of the ball that I think it's such an unbelievable shame that he hasn't yet played in the Premier League. So my number one player, if we got this guy in, I would go, Aratata. It is Ezequiel Palacios. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. And he's available this summer for about 45 million quid.
Talk to us about this player, Sean. Talk to us about this player.
He was the absolute commander in chief in connector in chief. He sits in the 6 or in a deeper line role in a double pivot. In Alonso's system, when they won the league, he was everywhere, everything. He had like 90. He was like 90, like 99th percentile. Like there was so many 99s. It was like looking at an ice cream van. It was insane how good this guy was a couple of years ago. He hasn't fallen off. He's just a phenomenal talent and South American player. As I say, you know, Leverkusen are getting ripped apart right now. All of Leverkusen's best players are leaving. They're looking to bring other players in. I don't know whether their owner is like, oh, you know, fuck it, we'll go for a monster rebuild, or whether he wants to be around for that. I don't know, but he's 27 years old. He's just an absolute delight on the ball. He's a tackler, wins the ball back. He can ping it for days like he's in Ibiza with Jack Grealish. And there's nothing to dislike about him. And I think there's nothing to worry about with his transition to the Premier League because he creates space and time on the ball that is... He grabs an extra half a second, right? And even in the Premier League versus the Bundesliga, where you don't get that extra half a second, he'll find it. He makes the game look easy, and his through balls, his passing, his ability to pull the ball out. It's just like I think he's like the closest thing to like Pirlo since Pirlo, and I just love him. I love him. I think he's absolutely sensational. And if Tottenham could go and get him, I don't know why he's not I don't know why he hasn't been gobbled up by someone yet. For me, I think he'd be brilliant. He's not like a monster. He's not like a Polinia type of 6. He's a different type of 6. He's a ball playing 6. He's a deep line playmaker, but he has got that tenacity and that fight, that South American kind of like guile. But so he's not the same sort of player as like a Polinia. But then I don't necessarily think you need a Polinia in a Thomas Frank system, because Polinia is like not very good on the ball at all, right? He just wins the ball back, sniffs out the threat, and hands it over to someone else. And that's fine if you've got like a different style of system where you just need someone to sit in front because the fullbacks are inverting or the fullbacks are flying up the pitch or whatever else. Polinia just protects the back two, back three. That's what Polinia does. Palacios for me is a guy that carves the game open. He's the tempo master, the conductor, and I think he's just brilliant. So that's who I'd go for. If you could get him, I'd go for that. There's been no links, but he's wildly underrated, wildly understated, in my opinion, in European football.
If I remember rightly, he was quite highly rated about 3-4 years ago, and then I don't know if that when he got his move to Leverkusen, it kind of died off since then. But yeah,
right. Leverkusen, he was like, if he had the only time that Leverkusen struggled was in the games when he was injured in that season. When he played, Leverkusen just smashed teams apart because it just freed up other players to go and do their thing. So it's a player that I just like. Even if he doesn't come to Tottenham, if he went to somewhere else, I'd just love to see him. Love to see him in the Premier League.
Chris,
sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful.
Probably means Spurs won't get him. Chris, what's your one player? And if everyone names the same player, that's absolutely fine. It proves that that's the we should go to get.
One player that I would like to personally just see at Spurs. It's not necessarily go out and spend the money for him, but someone who's proven themselves and I think is good enough. And it's going to be so random. But Jared Bowen.
I knew you was going to say that. I absolutely knew you was going to say that.
I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he would actually. He's got a bit of pace about him. He's skillful. I don't know if that deal would ever come off. I don't know if West Ham would sell him. I don't know if they'd ask for 120 million or whatever it'd be. I've always liked him. I rate him. I don't know how he's not in the England squad. It baffles me. But
yeah, it's criminal.
You
know what, mate? His place in the England squad is taken up by a guy that you don't look too dissimilar to, in Cole Palmer.
Don't.
You look a little bit like Cole. If Cole Palmer was with Logan Paul, then I think that's the doppelganger right there.
Mate, you've had Peter Crouch for a long time, so take Cole Palmer.
Chris, you're a lot better looking than Cole Palmer, mate.
Do you know what? Right?
That's the Logan Paul side of the.
Right. Yeah.
Completely off topic, but I have been told I look like Cole Palmer too many times, and it's actually I find it quite offensive now because I look at him and I think he's not a good-looking geezer at all. But I'm like, I find it quite offensive, and
I didn't mean it.
I won't take offense, but the fact that even when I was down for when England were in the final of the Euros last year, I was down, and my missus sent me a message saying that all of her pals in her group chat were like, "Oh my god, that Cole Palmer looks just like Chris," and I was like, "Have you seen what he looks like?" And she got a picture and she was like, "You look nuts." She said, "I can see the similarities." She said, "But you don't look." I wouldn't look at him.
It's your camera, mate. Your camera's not high resolution.
Nah.
It was high resolution.
No, I didn't mean any offense by it, mate. Sorry, this is my.
It's when England get beat in the final, and then you're down and you're upset and you're gutted, and you get kicked down even more by saying you look like Cole Palmer. It's just a kick while you're.
No, you look like the better looking version of like your Logan Paul, mate. You're more Logan Paul than Cole Palmer. How about that?
I'll tell you.
Chris, he's been calling me Jack Grealish, so don't worry about it, mate.
But back to the
Jared Bowen. I don't think it's a bad shout. To be fair, I don't think it's a bad.
I like him. I've always rated him. I think he's a good player. I don't understand how he's not in the England squad, but I'd like to see him come to Spurs and prove he's worth there.
Dan, who would be the one player?
What, fantasy football kind of thing?
Yeah, just obviously slightly realistic. We're not going to go and get Messi's, Ronaldo's, etc. But who would be the one player where you think where you turn around and be like, yeah, do you know what? He's serious. He's serious. He does want to go and achieve something.
It's tough. I mean, I like the players we're linked with, Eze's and stuff, but would I want better than that? Yeah, probably. But you've got to be realistic, right? As a Spurs fan. I mean, when Sean talks about that midfielder, and I just think that, the midfield is so important. You need someone in there, a playmaker, somebody who can control games. I mean, we need it, whatever we do. Yeah, it's so important. But then I go back to what I enjoy more about watching Spurs, and that is players that make things happen and a bit of magic. So realistic, Eze, I guess. But I mean, I would want better. You know this guy. What's his name? Simmons. Yeah. What do people think of him? 22.
I like him.
Classy. The only concern I have with Xavi Simmons is I think people like sometimes think, because you're slight framed, that you're not going to be able to handle the rough and tumble of the Premier League. There's plenty of examples of players that play in that 10 role that have handled it. Like Luka Modric's probably the best example.
Yeah.
And Xavi Simmons to me is cultured. He's another guy that he can create space. But like James, James Maddison on steroids, can also play. I don't think he's not a take on guy, so you wouldn't see him on the right or left wing taking players on. But if he needs to come off the left to be able to make it, to make space and make it work, he could absolutely. Well, I really like him. I really do. The only concern I think is out there about him is whether his frame is a little bit too lightweight. But
I agree with that. He looks like a class act, to be fair, from what I've seen of him.
Yeah.
Would you take him over Eze, guys?
Nah, I don't think so. Eze's proven it in the Premier League.
I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference.
And homegrown as well.
Yeah, homegrown. That's the one, isn't it? Homegrown as well. So important, isn't it? We need it, and we need those players. So, yeah, guys, Eze, I guess. But look, let's just make it happen. Let's hope he comes in, and it doesn't end there, right? It's a start of something.
100%.
We need to see, Look, it's hard, isn't it, being a Spurs fan? You just don't believe it until you see it. But it's all we can do as fans, isn't it? Hope that we step up.
I also think as well, though, he needs to prove to the players that he's bringing in that he's going to create a squad, because you can sell players based on Tottenham and what we're going to do, but actually, again, we are going to improve all these sections, and then bringing in them players that you're going to improve. I think that shows the players that you're trying to sign as well, or even the players that you're linked with. Sorry. If you go and sign Eze and then you go and sign an Mbeumo, you're not signing 19-year-old kids that are not there, and someone who maybe linked with us goes, I don't know if I want to go to Spurs, because they don't seem to be creating a squad. They're creating a squad for the future, but they're not creating a squad for now. I don't want to go there and spend 2 seasons there and have to potentially overachieve to try and do something. So I think the players that we're being linked with as well, if we're going to go and sign players like Eze, it's a big statement. The money's being spent, the wages being spent. I think that will become an attraction to Spurs, for linked players to Spurs as well.
Connor,
I mean, for me, I think it's I mean, out of the realistic ones is Eze. Out of the slightly less realistic, because I think Palace would ask for too much money. Someone mentioned Adam Wharton. Wharton, for me, I think, we obviously missed the boat a couple of years ago when Palace signed him. I think he'll end up at an elite, sort of very top-end club. I'm pretty certain of that. And will start for England every game with Declan Rice in midfield.
Don't mention his name.
I think,
don't mention his name unless he gets a transfer.
I just think Wharton, he's similar to what Sean was describing in terms of that sort of number 6 that's more of a sort of deep lying, playmaking, good on the ball, always passes forward type number 6, rather than destroy number 6. And actually it somewhat depends on whether Romero goes, I think, in terms of the type of number 6 that we end up going for, because we are so reliant on Romero at the moment in terms of any type of build-up play. And moving possession forward. I think if Romero goes, it's absolutely critical that we sort of replace him with 2 players, a centre back that can defend well, and then a number 6 that can pass. So we'll see, but obviously I'm hopeful Romero doesn't go.
Ryan said, would you take a window of a Grealish loan, no DM, and a £30 million centre back? Or obviously the centre back would only be if Romero goes, I would guess. I don't think we're going to spend £30 million on another backup centre back, to be honest. But maybe we will. Let's see. But I think we need a 6. I think then we need
2 players then.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Low, it'll be him and a centre back. Yeah, that's not.
And I imagine
I'd be the first person at the change, the next change protest. I'll be the one with the
Another one is who would be the preferred six. I mean, Sean, you've already sort of answered that with your one. Frank, do we think Frank will sign one, or would he shoot on Bentancur in there? Well, I've said this before. I think that with the system that he'll play, you don't necessarily have a six. You have two players that play sort of DM and they play off of each other. So I don't think we need that. Palhinha, I think you've mentioned it, would have been perfect for the Ange system in terms of he's lonely in there. He'll just destruct, he'll break things up, and then he'll pass it to the players that are better. I don't think you necessarily need to have that type of player in a Frank system because the two DMs will sort of do that together and they'll be closer together.
Sorry to inquire, just a quick question. Where do you think we could have finished, right? Let's say that we weren't in Europe next year, last year, right? And we just had a free run. If Ange Ball did Ange Ball, but rather than having Bissouma or Bentancur playing in a lower lying, if he had Palhinha last year, how many more points would we have got if we took the league seriously and everything else was the same, but we just had Palhinha in the lower lying 8?
I generally still think that the injuries were a problem. I know that people don't want to kind of go back to it because it's exclusive, but I still think that they would have been a problem. When you going into games with Dragusin and Gray at centre back, it is difficult. But if you then make tactics where they're not as easy to get at, maybe I still think it will probably be a top. How many points did we finish off?
38, wasn't it?
So to finish.
If you get 20 more points, you were in fifth space, weren't you? At 58 points, was it, or sixth spot?
Let me have a look.
I genuinely think that Ange Postecoglou shot himself in the foot. Just look at Manchester City and how terribly different they are without Rodri.
Yeah,
and on a lower scale, lesser like amplified version. The idea that you can do that system and double invert without a specified six, even though I don't play with a six, but at Celtic, when you had all of the, not to get on this, sorry to the sidetrack, but at Celtic, he played with Callum McGregor, who was a six.
Yeah.
And he comes to Tottenham and goes, I don't need a six. You kind of did, because Callum McGregor was like the most important part of your entire system.
So we finished on 38, and Newcastle finished on 66.
66.
That's 28 points. It's still quite a few. But as I say, if you was to go off of like how many games we lost 22. So we lost a ridiculous amount of games. So I think it'd have probably been top 8 maybe.
Yeah.
I think it'd have been top 8 because, as I say, I do think the injuries would have played a part. I think if he would have got top 8, then I think it would have been. And that's not a great season by any stretch, but I think that the injuries, if we would have done really well in all the competitions with these injuries, I think people would be going, what, like, how has he managed that sort of thing? Because they were pretty bad, and part of that is our own fault because we've got injuries all the time to the centre backs, and they always get injuries. So this isn't like something we wouldn't have been expecting, to be honest. But that's quite a good one. Where do you think we'd have finished?
Me, well, yeah, I think certainly, I think we would have probably not lost. Yeah, I think we would have probably, 12 losses. I think the absence of a 6. Yes, I take your point. The injuries were certainly meaningful, but the absence of a 6 was just criminal. It was a criminal mistake.
Yeah.
Criminal.
And I think especially when you get them injuries, like you might have been able to get through a season. I don't think you could have, but you might have been able to get through a season where Romero, Van der Ven, and a Bentancur in front of them. But when you're playing Gray and Dragusin or Danso or Ben Davies, then that 6 becomes even more pivotal just to prevent them getting to them so easy. What else was there? Last sort of things were just in terms of the season. We are going to wrap up ever so soon. In terms of the season, it's very, very difficult to obviously predict with signings and everything else. But how do we think Frank's going to fare at Spurs under obviously stepping up Champions League, playing? I think the fixtures came out and there were a couple of people that kind of added in the potential games that could be played in terms of league, and it is basically a game every 3 to 4 days. How do we feel that Frank will fare this season? What do we consider this season to be sort of like a success, if you like? We'll start with Chris, and then we'll go around to everyone.
So what do you think would be a success this season?
Yeah, how do you think you'll get on, and what do you think will be successful?
I said it before. I think a top 8 finish is realistic. If we can get that, I think if we finish 8th, I think the fans will be like, "Oh, we finished 8th." But I think when you look at it from a progression point of view, it's a big step up. We've had a better season than this season. Champions League, I'd like to see us get through the group stage of what it is now, the league table stage, and just be competitive and just go for it. Obviously, if you're playing away to a Real Madrid or whatever, he'll probably change it up and try and be more tactical. But I think I'd like to see us up against the big boys. I mean, I know we've got PSG in the Super Cup, and that would be a good test. But I think by then the squad would have been embedded. He would have made these transfers. He probably would have maybe have had another transfer window in the January as well when you go after the league group. So
yeah, it goes into January.
Yeah.
That was one of the differences in the January transfer window this season.
Yeah, and then I think domestic cups. It'd be nice to quarterfinals, semi-finals of a domestic cup. I'm not expect. I think we've tasted a cup win now, and I think everyone wants to sort of get another one as quick as possible. Again, realistically, I think I'd just like to see us be challenging up there for the League Cup or the FA Cup. So just being competitive, but I think league form definitely can only be better. So top 8 league form.
Top 8, and do you think that's a successful season with the transition, new manager, and everything else?
I think so, yeah, because I think there'll be a lot of change within the squad. I think there'll be quite a few players going. There'll be some new players coming in, a new tactic of how to play, not just one way as well. There should be there'll probably be 2 or 3 tactics of playing that we'll need to together. It'd be interesting to see about injuries as well. If we don't get as many injuries, and the players that were sort of injured and got the big injuries, then was out for the 2 and 3 months. It'll be interesting to see if they get sort of, because when you get them sort of injuries, it's not like they just go away. You'll tend to have them. It's how they're managed and how they're treated. So I think just in general, I'd like to just see a more successful season, and that doesn't mean winning something. It just means getting back on track to where we was before.
Yeah. Dan, do you agree with that? Top 8.
Yeah, my expectations for next season are not very high at all. I think, a lot of damage has been done this season, finishing 17th. A lot of coaching has got to go back into the team. I'm going to give Frank some time. I don't think it's going to, hit straight away. I think there'll be improvements. I think, again, it's all depending on the transfers, who we're bringing in. I may change my expectations, but I think if we can get 8th, I think that would be a good first season for Frank and a good cup run, yeah? And not just that. I just want to see progression throughout the season. I want to see Frank's system starting to work. I'd like to see some improvement in players. Just slow progression, throughout the season. And in these kind of cup games that we're competitive, right? I'm not just going to roll over. We're going to give it our best shot. If we get beaten on the day by a better team and they play better than us, fair enough. But I want us to have a go. Yeah, have a go in the domestic cups. Champions League is going to be very difficult. I don't know. I can't predict that, because you've got to think of what's happened this season. Like, we've taken a right battering, haven't we, overall? Yes, we won the Europa League. Fantastic. But there's a lot of work that Frank needs to get going. So for me, the expectation's low. 8th, that'd be good. And then a good cup run, and you never know.
Seems to be the theme, seems to be 8th. Connor, are you in agreement to that? Is 8th a decent finish for you?
Yeah, I am. I mean, the ancestors will tell you that we need to finish top 5 and or win a trophy. But obviously the point is that we're not. Well, when Ange finished 5th, we weren't in Europe, so he only had the league to focus on. And then we haven't got the Europa League as a sort of get-out-of-jail-free card. The competitions that we're in this season are more difficult to win. So, I think, top 8 would be good progress. I think we'll finish top 8, to be honest, as well.
I think that's the
Okay.
that's the sort of minimum, isn't it? If you finish 10th
Yeah.
with this squad, then I think there's some problems. Unless
Yeah, I
there's no
agree.
signings and whatever.
Yeah, and then I mean in cups it just depends on who you get. You know, if you draw Liverpool away
Yeah.
in the third round, then you know you're probably going to lose. So yeah, I think yeah, deep runs in the cup. Hopefully, Champions League we've got to get through. You know, we won't finish top 8, but finish in those 16th to 24th positions so that we at least get the qualifier to potentially get
Yeah.
to the knockouts would be good. And yeah, you know, for me, I just want to, you know, as a season ticket holder, not only go and see us win, what was it, 6 games at home or something. The amount I'm paying per win at home was pretty outrageous. So yeah, starting to see some progress in terms of actually not having to deal with a loss every. You know, I don't know how others felt, but I started to get immune to losing, to be honest, which I don't think is a position you should ever really be in as a Spurs fan in today's day and age.
Yeah, I think you threw away games before they'd even started 100%. Sean, what do you think?
What's that?
Top
Where
8?
we're finishing next season?
Yeah. What would you consider a successful season? Yeah, that's true. No one's mentioned the Super Cup yet. So are we getting champions of that? We'll finish on that.
Quintuple is on, boys. The quintuple is on. Never been done. You know, we're back. We've got our Tottenham back. Now, I'd say in the league, I think I think 8th, 7th or 8th would be. Actually, no. You know what? I'm going to punch a bit higher than that. I think with the transfer window that's going to come our way, I'm sort of hanging my hat on the fact that there's not a lot of waffle that's going to peter out. I'm going to say a Europa League finish in the league, and then a quarterfinal in the Champions League, and maybe a semi-final in one of the cups.
Are you setting a target, Sean? You setting Frank some targets?
I'm saying, Frank. Apparently, if you don't win a trophy, then you've failed. That's the binary line in the sand. The season with the trophy is success. One without is. So I'm still allowing him to fail, but just fail well. You know, just fail well. That's what I'm saying.
It's failing forwards, not
Fail
backwards.
forwards, exactly. Yeah.
Right, guys, I have just had another look at the subscribers. We are at 997. So come on,
people. What are we doing
3
here?
more. There's 310 of you in here. Just come on.
Are we staying on until you hit 1,000?
We're not going. But we're doing the Richarlison.
Keep going, Luke. Luke, keep going. Keep going until you get there. Keep the show going.
Yeah.
I wouldn't keep you all here because we'll probably be here still tomorrow morning. But come on,
I'll set up some accounts. Luke.
No. We're gonna get him up. There you go. Done it.
1001. 1001. What a way to finish the show.
Well,
Thank you very much. You guys are going to go down in Spotlight on Spurs history. You were the panel when we achieved said number. So
I remember I got over 1,000 by doing something similar, and then I woke up the next morning. I was back to 992 because all these bastards unsubscribed.
I was just going to say that. I'm at 1,005 now, so I'm hoping that we only have four people unsub, and then at least I'm still over that 1,000 mark.
Well done, mate. Well done, buddy.
Cheers and say thank you very much to everyone for coming on. It was a great show. Really enjoyed it. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. Now we just need Levy to get in them deep pockets of Enoch and splash some cash. Let's see if it happens. Guys, have you got Danilist? I know that you've running regular shows. You've got a new series coming out. What's coming up on your show? I'll put all the links in the chat. Please make sure you go and subscribe to everyone. There is a couple of X accounts, and then there's YouTube as well. So, Danilist, what you got coming up on your show, mate?
Yeah, so just changing it up a bit. I don't like the summer transfer window. I don't like all the fake stories. I just can't. I can't do it. I mean, if there's something what's going to go through and it looks real on, then yeah, I'll probably do a video about it. But yeah, I'm starting this new series over the summer called Inside Spurs Minds. I did one on Tuesday night. I haven't quite finished it. Got to do another part next week to finish the first episode off. But yeah, I'm looking to reach out to people I haven't streamed with before on YouTube in the Spurs community. So yeah, I'm thinking who I want that to be. I might bring back some old people I've been on stream with before, mix it up a bit. But yeah, I'm just doing something a bit different over the summer. And yeah, I hope people come down and watch it, enjoy it. and yeah, get involved.
Guys, as I said, go over, subscribe to Dennis's channel. It will be in the description box below as well. And then Sean is always streaming. He's always got something coming up. Have you got anything in the pipeline, Sean?
Yeah, I'm the entire polar opposite to Dan. I'm shameless with the Drake.
I know you are.
Whatever. If I wake up in the morning and I can't find a new link, I will make one up if I have to. No, I'm kidding. I would never do that. No, I take my dog out every morning or every morning and then throw her the ball and talk about whatever's going on in the Spurs world. Yeah, but like I can get as bad as to pull out a team talk link or one of those sorts of guys. But I try to get my caliber of content to go. The lowest I usually go is Football Insider or Caught Offside. Anything there or above in the tiers, I'm okay with. Occasionally, I pull up a link and go, "What's the source?" Yeah, okay, I'll still do it. And yeah, well, that's people like a transfer story, no matter how much bullshit it is. It's awful. So you get to every day.
People love it. People love it.
Yeah, people like it, and then you get a stream in the evening usually, but not tonight. It's too fucking hot, boys. It's so hot. I ain't got any air conditioning in my house. It's like I'm a messy pig. I'm a messy pig.
I've got the windows open, the doors open, the lot. I was just hoping that I didn't have loads of police going by the whole stream because that would have been an absolute nightmare. But guys, we've made it. We've hit 1K. Unbelievable. What a panel. The panel has been absolutely brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you all. The chat has been absolutely crazy. There's been a couple of comments that have just made me absolutely wet myself that had nothing to do with this stream whatsoever, but they were very, very funny. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to everyone.
Clearly from someone watching a different stream and thought that the comment section was overlapped.
Honestly, there was a couple of occasions where I completely forgot what was going on, and I was just watching that and just laughing. And I was like, I need to really get myself in gear here. So yeah, as I said, massive thank you to everyone. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be back again next week with another live stream on Thursday, and that's it from us. So the last thing to say. Come on, you Spurs. See you later, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Spurs.